On its journey to the moon, a new lunar lander has taken amazing pictures of the Earth. Intuitive Machines was the business that started the mission. When a Falcon 9 from SpaceX took the first private lander to the moon on February 15, 2024, it created a lander of its own design and piloted it to the moon in collaboration with NASA. The commercially manufactured lander, which was equipped with 5 NASA payloads ostensibly for purely scientific purposes, was named Odysseus Crater near the moon's south pole on February 24, 2024. However, the American company, Instinctive Machines, had other plans for its mission. The lander, which was called Odysseus, was actually a Malipur payload container of the Nova C type. Since space enthusiasts from all around the world considered this trip as the beginning of a completely new era of lunar exploration, the entire mission was eagerly awaited. The fact that Ulysses was a clever combination of a payload freighter and a scientific measuring device makes it abundantly evident that NASA's plans to colonize and exploit the moon are still in the works. Payload freighters like Ulysses could deliver the first parts and technical equipment for future settlers to the moon on subsequent missions. What do NASA and Intuitive Machines actually want on the moon? Would you have imagined that private sponsors would promote lunar exploration? The spring 2024 mission's official goals included studies on the geological composition of the surface, radio astronomy, and the precise determination of the lunar weather at the landing site. Colonization. The official name of the collaboration with NASA was Initiative Commercial Lunar Payload Services, or CLPS for short. This type of collaboration makes perfect sense, and in the 1970s, private sponsors even funded portions of the Apollo missions. At the time, the financial backers included radio and television companies that marketed the moon landings for profit. Intuitive Machines have very specific goals on the moon. In a formal tender, the task of designing a tiny payload freighter was given to Intuitive Machines. For example, this combination of state-organized space travel and private firms will make it easier for us to reach the moon. SpaceX has been working with NASA for a long time and handles all cargo and passenger missions to the ISS. In less than 10 years, the first infrastructure will be constructed on the moon and humans will live and work there. NASA intends to carry out its Artemis project immediately, and there is no going back. The Odysseus lander is a hexagonal cylinder with 6 landing legs that can lift up to 100 kilos of payload to the surface. It is 4.0 meters high and 1.57 meters wide. Solar panels, extra booster batteries, and liquid methane fuel power the Nova C-class lander. Odysseus carried a small rover Iris, as the vehicle was officially named, to independently explore the lunar crater, but Odysseus was a profitable disaster. The NASA payload on board included an innovative laser retro-reflector array, a navigation LR for precise surface mapping, a camera, radio wave observation sensors, and units for precise weather measurements. Odysseus landed on the moon at the Malipur crater near the South Pole on February 25th. The probe came to a halt only about 30 meters from the actual target point, which was actually a fascinatingly precise landing compared to other lunar missions, unfortunately part of the landing. Gear of the 6 landing legs broke off during touchdown, and Odysseus tipped over. The probe came to rest at a 30-degree angle on a small precipice, and it soon became clear that some parts had been unusable. The power collectors jammed, and Odysseus was unable to release the Iris rover. This was initially a disaster and a bitter setback for Intuitive Machines, but also for NASA by luck. However, some of the measuring instruments were activated and provided valuable data to mission control on Earth. Shortly after landing, the lunar night set in on February 28th, and Odysseus dawn of the lunar day. NASA radio, the probe and Odysseus responded. However, a short time later, the vehicle ran out of power, and the mission was officially declared over. The summary of the mission, which cost more than $200 million, was nevertheless positive. With a high-resolution camera system and some stunning images from the landing crater, NASA saw the landing as a success, despite the inclined position and user-friendly machines. It was also hopeful that it would be able to place future Nova C-class landers on the moon even more safely. The photos show the lunar soil in detail, including some rock formations reminiscent of the famous lunar pyramids, which shows us in an exciting way that this type of rock is very common on the moon. There were already wild rumors about the moon pyramids, and scientists insisted that the claimed structures of previous moon dwellers were merely optical illusions. Once more, Odyssey offers evidence that lunar geologists can decipher dozens of bits of information from such an image, providing additional insight on the sorts of rocks, geological processes, erosion, and lunar weather. Can you imagine that there were people on the moon at the end of the 1960s today? It seems so far away, and we sometimes think that those times were not as technologically advanced as ours, but this is actually not true. The Apollo space missions prove this, and as early as the 1970s, NASA astronaut raced through the delicate dust in a moon rover. Before this was possible, probes were sent to the moon to scout out the best landing sites for the first astronauts. The Lunar Orbiter 1 sent the first photo of the Earth from the moon on August 23, 1966. However, this was still an analog technology, and the film was developed in space, copied and sent to Earth. William Anders, an astronaut on the Apollo 8 mission, brought home this fascinating color image of the Earth. Anders also photographed the Earth's ascent, as seen from the moon, the difference between the barren gray world of the moon and our blue planet, with its atmosphere and bright white clouds, show us the richness and beauty of our world. Despite these stark differences between the moon and our beautiful blue world, we humans want to set off into space. We are simply an adventurous and explorer species and want to know what other moons and planets are like, and whether they might be alternative locations. If we are no longer able to inhabit the Earth one day, that's why we are now heading for the moon again. Humans will return to the moon more than 40 years after the last lunar landing. NASA swiftly followed suit and unearthed previous plans for lunar colonization after Elon Musk's ambitious plans to colonize the moon and make it accessible to the general public as part of tourism. The Artemis project, which NASA renamed, envisions a space station that will eventually double as a stopover on the way to Mars, and a lunar base where scientists and settlers will live and collaborate on projects like Orion space shuttles, many lunar orbiters, and exploration. Experts are now getting ready for humanity's next big adventure. The USA is one of 6 countries that have now sent probes to the moon: the Soviet Union, Japan, Israel, India, and China, and it appears that the EAMS project is likewise becoming into a multicultural enterprise, with private businesses joining state space agencies more and more. The US company IM is relatively new to the space industry, but it has been operating for a while. IM is gaining popularity because it was awarded a major contract by NASA for the construction of intelligent landers and rovers for lunar exploration, but it has much more in store. IM was founded in 2013 at its headquarters in Houston, Texas, which is in the perfect location because Houston has been one of the largest space centers in the world since the 1960s. Despite the small setback with IM's vision is to provide humanity with access to space through the development of advanced technologies and creative solutions. The company is determined to ensure that more and more private companies support space colonization. In addition to building lunar landers, IM will develop additional technologies for daily life or routine work on the moon. These technologies must be unique because the conditions on the moon differ greatly from those on Earth, including gravity, pressure, and air. Additionally, the lunar dust presents a significant challenge for technologies, particularly in outdoor areas. For example, consider tools for horticulture or mining on the moon, shovels for excavating sharp-edged moon rocks, and water treatment machines. Future plans for moon vehicles or even bizarre items like moon streetcars. What's truly taking place on the moon, now that their first lunar lander has been successfully deployed, the company is already creating new versions of its lunar landers that are even more durable, versatile, and able to carry out larger and more complex missions. The most recent Nova C series of landers should be able to transport even larger payloads, carry out longer, and land on the moon in even more difficult environments. NASA and Intuitive Machines are planning to conduct additional lunar missions to push the boundaries of lunar exploration even further. The investigation of the moon's poles, especially the South Pole area, where scientists believe there are significant amounts of water ice and other important minerals, will be one area of focus. To accomplish these challenging objectives, Intuitive Machines is collaborating closely with international partners. Following the Odyssey's mission, the company is now planning to further develop its lunar lander. The second Nova Sea lander is scheduled to land on the Moon soon, and if the landing goes really well, we can look forward to learning more about this new class of lunar lander. If the rover, for instance, is released, please subscribe to the channel right away to be included in every exciting new video.